My name is Terri Messenger, and I am a
Hey, and welcome to and welcome to Terri Messenger's Genius Zone. And, this is the place and the space where you are going to get your own free masterclass absolutely free. I am so excited to have you on my show, Liv. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Terri.
Such a pleasure. And I just want to say to the world, to the audience, that if you've ever heard a podcast where someone is called to do some really important business, I'm going to share with you this incredible lady, Liv, who is completely focused on aiding individuals who are trapped in the cycles of dysfunction in their family, where they've ended up being a part of the criminal justice system. But what really amazes me, Liv, is how you have been able to change people's lives when they have been involved of even criminal activity, and how you have been able to draw their character and give them that freedom to be able to live an incredible life. So I just want to say, what a huge cause you have right there.
Thank you so much, Terri. Yes, I've never felt more useful in my life.
Yes.
I know I'm where I need to be.
And as we talk about your brand story, I believe that has got a big purpose of how you have gone from the depths of hell, where you have really hit rock bottom. I mean, you've been in that life where you've also been in that chaos, that despair, and you even had a psychotic breakdown with an accumulation of obviously what happened to you as a child. And yet you don't regret one thing, even though it took you to, just to give people an idea of where you were with your trauma and how much you had to rebuild your life. And this is what's going to really inspire the world here, is that you built yourself up from nothing. You literally shattered into a billion pieces and even couldn't feed yourself or bathe yourself. So you literally had to, build yourself from the ground up. So, what do you believe? I know you talked about backstage with me some of the things that you had to pull from your own memory bank. And there were, little conversations you had with your father. Can you firstly start off by telling us about how you were able to draw on one of your father's stories and the question you asked him with the old lady?
With the old lady, okay. So there was a time when I asked my dad who the most impressive person he's ever met was. And because he was very successful in his field, he was #1 in the world, he met amazing individuals. So I expected for him to mention a queen, an actor, or a pop star. But instead, he said, in my village, during the war, there was an old lady who was always positive. If we had no food, at least there was water. If somebody new was killed, at least we had each other. And he told me that without her optimism, he wouldn't have made it. He wouldn't have kept on fighting for freedom, and he wouldn't have survived the war. When I asked him what was so special about the old lady, what was her superpower, he said, in our darkest hour of need, when we had nothing left to live for, she gave us hope. And that really stuck with me when I was small. I thought, oh, when I grow up, I really want to be like that old lady. And without planning to, here I am trying to do just that to the people who have found themselves in a difficult spot. I'm a criminal justice peer supporter at a mental health charity called Together for Mental Wellbeing, where we help those with mental health issues who get in trouble with the law on their path to recovery. And I was there myself. Like you mentioned, I did suffer a psychotic breakdown and found myself charged with arson with intent to endanger life, which is how I found myself facing prison, potentially
Yeah.
life.
I'll just pause you there. So you were actually charged with arson with
Yes,
intent to injure and hurt people's lives.
endanger life. Yes, yes. So
Endanger
as
life.
if I did it. Yes.
What actually was the truth of that story?
Well, when I suffered a psychotic break, there was an accident. Yes, so it was me who caused it, but I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what I was doing. And it's very hard to, well, think about it. How do you prove your innocence? Which you cannot say that you're not guilty, that you're innocent, because yeah, it was my fault. But
Yeah.
I wasn't here. So that was, yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, but
I know that a lot of people who believe in the dark side and the light side, they would like, I'm looking at a woman like you who is totally impacting lives, who's saving people's lives, literally. And I'm going, oh my gosh, you know, the darkness meant it for evil, but maybe the light side meant it for good. Because as a result of you going through everything you went through, it's almost like you came under some kind of a spiritual attack. And, you know, they do say that when a person goes into those kinds of episodes, and you were able to discuss with me a little powerful spiritual element of your own life, and that is how you're able to speak to the spiritual realm. And so obviously you lost that while you were going through the
yes, I lost
psychosis.
everything. I lost my mind, home, job, reputation, finances, and most of my friends, including my connection, yes, to the
Wow.
source.
So you literally, it's almost like, you know what? We're going to totally just smash you into tiny little pieces where there is
Yes,
resonance, and then we're going to test you, because it's like, you know, people that go through the army, or if they're going into the police force, you know, they have to be, you know, armed for combat, right? And I can't wait to talk about your superhero theory, you know, in a while, but that's a big one we're going to share with the audience. But right now, you know, being that you went to such the depths of despair, you know, were you able to pull on the spiritual realm at any point when you were coming out of it?
I kept being told that that wasn't real. So I had doubts because after psychosis, I didn't know what was real, what wasn't, what was left, right, up, down. And yeah, it's like your brain just going, and then all the wiring is just malfunctioning. That's what it felt like. But yeah, here we are.
That's incredible. So it sounds like, you know, you are now officially like the founder of the superhero theory. And this is, you know, I was listening to a podcast actually the other day, and it was talking about how I think I can't remember whether it was Batman. I think it was Batman. And when the person was behind the Batman character, they had to channel Batman. Like in the spiritual realm, there is that kind of a person, that kind of a, you know, spiritual element. So once, you know, they couldn't create Batman until they literally channeled it. And once they channeled it, it's like something just came over that person. It was a female actually, and Batman was born, and it came out of the spiritual realm. It came out of channeling. So the superhero theory, tell us about how that came about.
Okay, so it's called, yeah, superheroics, like physics, like mathematics, superheroics. It started out as as heroics just because my dad's mom, my grandma, taught him that on these rules, and then he changed it to superheroics because I loved superheroes. And even as a child, I believe the superheroes were real because when I asked my dad, do they exist? He goes, yes. Yes, superheroes are real. You're surrounded by them, but the majority don't even know they are superheroes. And it's that philosophy helped me. So then I started using it on my clients with rapid positive results observed even in repeat offenders. And it has proven to work really fast, especially amongst the post-psychotic individuals trying to rebuild everything from the bottom up, from the gravel up, from the ruins up, literally, is that it divides everything into two piles. Yes, no, right, wrong, good, bad, true, false, love, hate, freedom, oppression, etc., etc. And it completely eliminates the so-called gray area, which my dad said was a man-made place where people kept their excuses. And it works amongst post-psychotic individuals because it eliminates the possibility, or at least it diminishes the possibility of you doing something wrong to a minimum. Because you're like, should I be angry? Well, no, I shouldn't. Should I tell this police officer off, even if they might be wrong? No, you gotta act a certain way. And when you project positivity, kindness, compassion, even in a difficult time, then people will treat you better. Because when you're suffering and you're hurting someone, people will see somebody that's rude or impolite. Very often we miss that compassionate side where people don't see you with compassion, they get upset,
Yeah.
taking it personally. And that's where people, like, as we call the dysfunctionals, us, we get misunderstood very often. It's not an excuse at all, but it's good to know that if you don't take something personally and you'll see that the person who is suffering from a mental ill health crisis needs help, yeah, you can save them.
I was just wondering, it just dropped into my mind just then. However, I'm wondering, you say, us dysfunctionals, but I'm wondering if I do understand where you're coming from, because you are dealing now with people that have been raised in that dysfunctional family, for example, or that upbringing, or that's how their life has gone, and that dysfunction has become their normal. But I'm almost feeling like there was this word that just dropped from dysfunctional to being like just a non-conformist, because a lot of the great people, like the small percentage of people, have that. And even though your story it's very exciting, and if I've ever heard a superhero story, it's definitely one with you, because nobody ever went to a movie, right, a box office smash, to watch rainbows and butterflies, rainbows and butterflies, rainbows and butterflies, unless you have this epic, trial that you have to actually overcome. You can't be a superhero. So you kind of emulate and live through that superhero theory, which is absolutely phenomenal. But what you just said too about how these people are obviously in this function and people don't understand them, so they just judge them. I know that's paraphrased in what you said, but they get judged. And, it's interesting that when you look through the eyes of that other person, like I was talking through this with a couple of clients today, people, no matter what they're doing, no matter how they're acting or how they're behaving, they're coming from three elements, one of three elements, and not in this order. Either that they don't have a feeling of love and connection, and that's been the number one. Number two, a sense of no significance, no importance, no reason to live, And number three, a whole lack of uncertainty, where they just have no confidence. And when we look at the human race and we go, well, regardless of whether they were a robber, a thief, a criminal, a person that did accidentally or set fire, where they were accused like you were of intention to hurt, where you know very well you weren't. Nobody knew what your intention was except, you know, maybe your subconscious mind. But my question is, you know, what happens to these people you're helping? Like you said backstage with me that there was one specific case where they had been criminally minded from when they were young, and they were obviously adults, and they went from that to literally flipping. Can you talk us through that story?
Of course. So first of all, what we mean by dysfunctionals, functionals meaning the normies, meaning people that can function within this matrix, this society, and dysfunctional, i.e. those ones who are kind of on the margin, because yeah, we do see, hear, experience, witness things that others don't. So so it's not supposed to be a derogatory or anything to us. If anything, it's funny, you know. But as for superheroics, one client of mine who was in and out of prison since teens, he was middle-aged at the time, so in and out of prison since teens, when he found out that his daughter got assaulted and the police weren't going to do anything about it because A, she survived, and B, they had more pressing issues, my client decided to take matters into his own hands. So he did some digging, found out who the alleged assailant was and where and when he worked. He picked up a hammer, hid it under his jacket, went to the shop where through the window he saw the assailant restocking the bottom shelf. He walked into the store, stood behind him, looked at the back of his head, grabbed the hammer, and in that moment he remembered a piece that he read in the superheroics book that says superheroes win and supervillains lose, and the description on how in any fairy tale and superhero story ever told, what it tries to teach us that if you want your happily ever after, you need to act in accordance with the laws of peace like a superhero, not war like a supervillain. So in that moment he thought to himself, I want to be a superhero, and decided to peacefully walk out of the store. Imagine the strength of the character. There is a person that hurt your child, and yet he had the strength to not only that he peacefully walk out of the shop, but also he hasn't not only been back since, but he hasn't reoffended at all, and has been focusing on building beautiful memories with his family, which is amazing. And another example would be a woman in her mid-20s who, after suffering so many traumas when growing up, that she would often cut her wrists and end up in the A&E, sometimes multiple times a week, to the point that her wrists now look, in her words, very mutilated. So they'd quickly stitch her up at the hospital, send her home, and she'd be back soon again. And unlike me, who had a great psychologist and legal team, she had nobody who understood what she was going through and how she was feeling. And when we first spoke, she said to me that maybe if she dies, then people will learn from her story and will learn how to treat each other better. But I told her the truth, that if she wants her story told, she needs to make it through to tell it herself. And we started applying the superheroics philosophy right away. And not long ago, when I asked her how she was feeling, normally she'd answer suicidal, but that day she didn't. When I asked her to tell me one positive thing about right here and now, she said the one good thing about right here and now is that for the first time in ages, I'm not feeling suicidal. Remembering my dad quoting Mother Teresa, don't say no to war, say yes to peace, I asked her to rephrase it into a more positive sentence. So she said, okay, the one good thing about right here and now is that for the first time in ages, I'm feeling optimistic about life. And that was, I got shivers. That was special. And she hasn't harmed herself since. She's been going regularly to the gym, better than me, and has been rebuilding herself.
I haven't been going there either, but
exactly. So
yeah, this is what
she's been rebuilding herself. Yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing for me to be doing this, what I'm doing, because right after the fire, when I was arrested and all that, I really felt like a zero. like I had nothing of value to offer the world at all. And because when you're in that state, I mean, nothing that anyone will tell you, you're going to feel or believe because you know better. You know, you think you know better. And when, yeah, I know what it feels like to be dead when you're not dead. However, having done this for 4 years, for a while now, yeah, 4 years, I think,
Yeah.
I've never come across even those that we deem unforgivables, the difficult people who have done something very, very serious, is that none of them has, you know, as a child dreamt about, yeah, when I grow up, I'm going to do this horrible thing or I'll become this terrible person. No, it's, if you think my story was hard, their story, whew, it's like mine was easy peasy in comparison. Born within prison walls, like Bane, you know, speaking of Batman, born in prison walls, parents both crack addicts, child foster care, in and out of different families, abused in all kinds of ways. So by the time they're 15, leaves home, runs away, turns to life of crime, and that's all they know. It's people who, some of them are people who have never experienced love from
Yes.
anyone.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. It's people that never experience love. And even if they did, they don't perceive that they ever did. And this is a huge problem in Australia. I know I forgot to ask you whereabouts in the world you are, and it's not too late. Whereabouts are you right now, Liv?
Okay, so currently I'm living in London. I've lived here for 22 years. Yes, I'm old. But I've got, yeah, Swedish nationality, Polish blood. So, but Londoner at heart.
So
That's
you
me.
are definitely beautifully European. It's probably where you get the youthful looks, because I
Oh,
wouldn't have
it's the
thought
Zoom, it's the low resolution. Does the job.
is behind you. So okay, so really I'm just amazed, because here in Australia we have a big problem right now, and I don't know whether it's going on in the whole world, but I sure as heck know that it's happening here, and that's domestic violence. And domestic violence is happening through people that have got children where they've been in foster care, like you've said, where one of the persons has burnt the house down, taken the lives of all these people. And, you know, when you think about these people that are doing it, I think just going back a step for a moment, like what you said, nobody ever had a dream as a child to grow up and ruin people's lives. And I have to take my hat off to you, because it's a very, very special niche, and you're a very, very selectedly chosen person, and you had to go. I mean, you're in the justice system as a peer, which means that you've got the experiential coaching side of things. And I don't even know whether I'd call it coaching. I think it's so refined, and it's so such an incredible calling. This is a calling you have on your life, and it's such a big niche where if there were lots of Livs getting around on the planet, you know, we may not need a criminal justice system, because maybe there'd be a lot less of this work going on. So I guess what I want to do now is I want to kind of talk about a little bit more about this superhero theory,
Okay.
how that correlates to, because you mentioned something about Mother Teresa, and rather than just kind of mentioning it, I want to open that up, because I think her philosophy, which is, I'll get you to state it again. Mother Teresa's philosophy is?
Well, that particular bit, which when I was talking about the female client, don't say no to war, say yes to peace. So don't focus on what you don't want, focus on what you do want. You know, yeah, that's
Bam.
important.
And that is exactly how this is. And this is where, you know, what you're doing is you're shifting people to, don't be focusing on over here what's happening. I mean, to get that guy that was so hell-bent on, you know, doing the unthinkable with a hammer under his jacket, to getting to the point where he's looking at the back of his head, And God only knows if it wasn't for you, I mean, how many lives you've saved. And then all of a sudden the superhero theory jumps in, and he moves like he moves from that element of what Mother Teresa says. Don't say no to war, say yes to peace. So what do you think these people, like, can you go through the little book, because you've shown it to me a few times, you've lifted it up and you've but
so that's the philosophy book, which is an interactive textbook where you can I try to get rid of all the psychobabble, you know, to make it an easy read, especially that many of my clients, they do have ADHD and they cannot focus, you know, too long. However, they manage to finish the book. It's short, it's snappy, it's, I don't even like the word snappy, but it is snappy.
that's okay.
And
yeah, so
and
tell us about it. Tell us all about this book.
well, first of all, it's supposed to bring hope, right? Because hope is what I'm about, or I try to be, like my dad's superhero, the old lady. And what I've noticed is that when, for example, my clients read the book, then afterwards they automatically feel a bit better about themselves, because that's the point. You know, everybody is so hard on themselves. We are also hard and so self-judgmental and self-critical and all that, that really, if it's hard to find happiness when you keep feeding yourself only unhappy thoughts. And I'm not saying it as if it never happens to me. Of course it does. But because of that philosophy, it makes life easier, much easier to navigate, because you realize that, oh, this is not good for you. Therefore, don't focus on it. Focus on the good. And it feels like all of us, yet again, I've got all different kinds of clients from all different walks of life, from very successful, famous businessmen to homeless individuals. And all of them, every single one, would feel not good enough and waste of space. And you're like, this is a brainwashing going on here, because it's impossible for every single person, no matter what they've achieved or what their success level, whatnot, they all feel crap. You know, something's going on there. So this is supposed to break that spell of the Matrix's brainwashing and kind of reset your mindset to neutral, you know. And because, yeah, the truth, only truth will set you free. It's actually quoted in the book as well. So yeah. And
it will set you free, definitely.
And what it does is there is different exercises, you know. It only works if you're honest, you know, because it asks you questions that some people maybe never ask themselves until this point. But the moment you find out what your shortcomings are, and it's not even to be negative, it's just about being fair. We all have pros and cons, we all have flaws, you know, so let's work on them, upgrade them a little bit, and then life becomes better. And it's true, it works, it's wonderful. You know, when I lost hope and faith and everything, literally, I lost everything. And then I thought, damn it, now I'm going to lose my freedom too. It was my dad's positive words telling me that after, for example, Second World War, they all had to rebuild everything, you know, villages, towns, and cities from the rubble up. And he said that there was a certain kind of freedom that comes with having nothing left to lose, but everything to gain. So yet again, I took that in and tried to apply it. But would I be here without the people that would feed me, clothe me, bathe me, take care of me, make sure I take my vitamins, pills, everything, whatever necessary? No, I wouldn't be here. And there were multiple times when I almost jumped. Yeah,
well,
but yet again,
thank God you are here, Liv. Thank
superheroes never give up. So I had no choice but to keep going. And thank you so much for this opportunity, Terri. Really, this means a lot. This is like the first official podcast appearance with, you know.
Well, you know what? I feel
Established.
that what's important, Liv, is that this is going to go out there, and this is going to get into the right hands of maybe even that person who feels that they've been unfairly judged, and maybe they're living up to the world's judgment of what they perceive of them. And what they really need is they need hope. They need someone who can believe in them. They need someone to say, look, if I've been smashed to a smithereen and to the point of I can't even feed and bath myself, which is your story, and there you are today being so vibrant and so purposeful and so incredible, then that brings the biggest hope to the world. So I'm going to ask you the last question that I always love to ask, and I know you have an incredible, yes, drum roll. You have an incredible, obviously, service that you're offering. So firstly, we're going to put your links in the notes. So those people that see it, they don't have to feel any shame. They can know that Liv has lived, no pun intended, through the best and the worst, and she's on the other side of this, and this is what she's here to do. So, you know, I just want to really say that it's a brave step for anyone to come forward and say, you know, there's that piece in me that just wants to make this massive change. And my question is, so whenever I do these kinds of podcasts, because being Terri Messenger's Genius Zone, you know, my art is really extracting the zone of excellence, but at a very, very deep level, you know, out of people, and really extrapolating that. And quite often what I see happen in the show is people become very inspired by it, and it really sets a bit of a flame alight. So after this podcast, if you were thinking to yourself, oh, I would have loved to share this, there was one more piece. If there was one more piece you could share, and I want to paint a picture to you first, and that is that this person is out there. They've got a huge chip on their shoulder, but they're locked in their own paralysis, judged, no hope, feeling knocked down, feeling like, you know, the world is against them. What would you, last words, what would you have to say to them? And on the notion of what Mother Teresa, her philosophy that you bring, and the superhero theory, there's probably not a lot better or greater than you can say. But if there were last words, what would they be?
Like Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep on going. So that's one. And two, love heals all wounds.
Wow. Love heals all wounds.
It's not my saying, it's a saying. I don't know who said
Yes,
it, but it's
that's
true,
right.
isn't it?
I love all your sayings. I love what you bring from your father, who was hugely successful. Can I ask just what he was hugely successful for?
So he was an artist. He was an engraver, and he was #1 in his field. So being #1 in the world in anything, let alone something so prestigious as the art field, you know, he had access to. He lived a wonderful life. He had access to wonderful, incredible, phenomenal people, and he had all these incredible stories. However, the one thing that I think is the most amazing about him is how humble he was about it. Because yeah, and that was one of the reasons that I remember the shivers when I was surprised when he could have mentioned anyone, any of those famous, impressive people, you know, who was the most impressive person he's ever met, yeah. And he mentioned just a random old lady from a village, and that was him. He didn't. To him, everybody was a person, you know, doesn't matter if you're a prince or a waiter. And he was always positive and happy, like a true superhero. You know, yeah.
And your father certainly left a legacy. So I want to say to you a huge thank you for sharing your heart and being so transparent and with this very specialized niche. So we'll put your links in the notes. And I want to encourage anyone, if maybe you know someone that really needs to hear this, please put it into their hands, because I cannot express, there's not a lot of people like Liv around. And, you know, yeah.
There's a free downloadable copy.
Yeah.
Anyone that wants, they can download a free copy on the superheroicsofficial.com website if you think it will help anyone.
Oh, please.
Or get in touch. I'm here. I'm here to serve and to help.
Superhero.com. And remember, by you sharing, you could be saving someone's life through Liv. And I just want to say once again, a huge thank you. And and also for your incredible patience, because we were meant to have this podcast a week or so ago when I was in Bali on a retreat with no Wi-Fi. And I want to say that I still say that I feel like it was meant to be right at this very moment. So thank you.
Thank you so much for this, Terri. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on another empowering episode of our show, where we have explored through this various topic, along with all the exciting new topics that we bring every week to enhance your personal mastery of excellence. Now, I'd love you to do me a favor. In fact, be part of the Legacy 1 million that I have in the vision for 2028. If you know someone who really would benefit from this recording, from this episode, please share it with them. And when you subscribe, you get notified every week of our episode as soon as it drops. So let's do that legacy thing. Let's share, let's care, let's enrich. And I look forward to bringing you another week of the most enriching content. So until next time, stay inspired, stay awesome, and keep on mastering your excellence.